maybe sometimes the storytelling isn't always about the flashiest, coolest thing. Maybe sometimes it's talking about losing, looking in the camera and say, well, I screwed this up today. I lost.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Racer on Demand show. I'm Amanda Vandenelsen here with Megan Meyer. Hi.
Hello.
Today, we are honored to host a true titan of the off-road industry. We have on with us Marty Fiolka. Marty is the man who wrote the book on off-road history and produced the sport's most legendary documentary, Dust to Glory, which I might say is Chris's favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, mine too.
Today, as the promoter for the Big House at Crandon, he is the architect of the biggest event in our sport of short course off-road racing. And today, we have the opportunity to pick Marty's brain on everything from world-class corporate activations to the fundamentals of storytelling. So as you listen today, I know this is a little off base of the guests we typically have, but I want you to be thinking about how you can draw connections between Marty's high-level strategies and your own race programs. So whether that's learning how to move from banners on a fence, basically stickers on your car, out to memorable fan experiences, or figuring out what specific things you can do in the pits to become an indispensable asset to your own home track and partners, this conversation is really sure to get your ideas flowing. So thank you so much, Marty, for joining us today.
Yes,
welcome. Thank you. I'm obviously here in the famous VIP bar downstairs in the barn at Crandon, and I'm sure a lot of people can recognize it. And it's a pleasure to be here, and nice to be able to take a little break from all the prep work we're doing and finishing up contracts and whatever else we're getting done here at Crandon. I'm usually here this year almost all of June and all of August. I have to go home for a couple of weeks this time. That makes it a little easier. Keeps everybody happy at home, right?
Right.
My beautiful wife and the dogs and everybody. So that part's good. But we're full tilt now, so we're getting ready for Labor Day.
Crunch time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can only imagine when this episode airs, we'll only be about 2 weeks off from the big show. So you guys are definitely down to the wire right now.
Yeah, it's what people don't understand is that, the dynamic of this place and this business is that, we're basically open like 8 days a year. That's it. And you have this 400-acre facility to maintain, not much happens in the winter, but, outside of the clerical things, all the things that Kennedy Flannery does here. But it's much more than that. And then when you get to the summertime, it kind of comes alive, and we have people, fixing fences, building things, mowing grass. And it's always funny here that you hear people talking about, well, there's somebody posted online the other day, well, maybe the track should just rent the tracks to the series and, but maybe pay them $20,000 for that. I'm like, you guys have no idea what this place costs to run. That's not even our fuel bill for the summer. That's insurance, all the things. So yeah. And what's amazing though, is that how much gets done here at the level it gets done with the kind of a little amount of people. It's a small town, so all the Flannery family's here, like Cliff's here. Flannery's the president. He's here at 5:30 every morning. Probably leaves at 5. Jason Flannery's here almost every day in the summertime. Ty is here. So it's all hands on deck. We have a bunch of great younger people come in and learn how to work machinery and work big machinery. And Cliff, that's one of the things Cliff loves to do, is basically give back to the community by teaching young people some skills that they can take on in their lives, whether they become machine operators or not. They learn a work ethic here that's, it's Cliff can be tough on it, but they walk away from here and they have great experiences.
Yes, that's so important, just to get people some experience in the workforce, no matter where that is or how that shows up. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a couple of kids have been here since they were, I think, 10, 11, and they just come and get
nice.
They're growing up now in the last 4 years, but yeah, they came and just they live up the street, and they take their side by side and come down, and they just they're doing bigger things now, but before they were kind of just with Cliff and the UTV and weed whacking and doing whatever it took. And so but again, it's a lot of property to maintain, and we like to we work hard to make sure we have the best facility that we can for the racers, the fans, obviously the sponsors, and take a lot of pride in what we build and what this place looks like. And you can see something gets built every year, something gets expanded on or grown every year.
Yes. Yes. Well, Marty, I think a lot of the people listening might not even know who you are, what you've done, or what your role is at Crandon. And, we know that your name is attached to some of the most iconic chapters of off-road history, but today you still wear a lot of hats. Tell us a little bit about the roles you hold now, the projects you're working on, and what your main focus is in the work you're doing right now.
Yeah, so it's been a very fortunate career. Not many people can say they actually earn a living at off-road racing and aren't actually racers.
Hmm.
That's a very small group too, as you guys know. But yeah, I just from my early days of off-road racing when I was a teenager still and working on Volkswagens, which I still do, to eventually getting a job at Bosch and being in charge of their off-road motorsports program at like 23 years old to whatever it's been, got to do some big public relations work for Nissan for many years, Nissan Motorsports, which took me to Indianapolis 500 and 24 hours a Daytona, Le Mans. Got to see all Indianapolis, especially
That's
taught
cool.
so much about how they deal with their history, right? How they really embrace history there, and they're the
Yeah.
legendary drivers and cars and the museum, and it kind of led me down the path of in 2000 that we don't the sport doesn't have any history written anywhere. There's
Yeah.
great history. And so in 2000, I started the Thousand Miles to Glory book, which was basically the history of the Baja Thousand. I had raced in it by that point a little bit, actually by that point quite a few times. And, just digging through and it took 5 years because there was no history in one place. The back of the book was nothing but the basic results from the races, who, what car, what number, how long, their times. And that took a long time to compile. But the book was the first real like history. And that kind of was combined with an event I did at the Peterson Museum in 2000, which was before the Baja 2000. And that was when we brought history. We brought the like 30 cars to the Peterson Museum. And we had Jack Arute at the time was a famous announcer announce it. And we had I don't know, 1,800 people show up. We expected like 800, and it was just the sport just needed some focus on it, how great of a history it had, and it just always
Yeah.
shied away from it. So, I pretty much the career has been spent trying to get the spotlight on off-road racing the right way. Didn't matter if it was running Dirt Sports Magazine or Dust to Glory or now even at Crandon. Um, you know, Everybody talks about trying to get mainstream. Like we got to get mainstream. Well, off-road racing still suffers from not being even mainstream motorsports. It's
Yes.
got better. And certainly, participation of things like PRI, last year when we had Jimmy Henderson's truck there and all, the guys at King of the Hammers had an area there, and we're trying to set up a display this year. It just,
Mhm.
it's all very subtle growth that for us has taken a long time to get to. Everybody can look at all our sponsorships, and we have more. And we just are renewing with, for instance, with Polaris for 3 years, and Red Bull will be coming back, and this is year 11 for the Red Bull Cup race here, and doing more with Toyota and some Optima batteries, some other things. But it's just takes a while.
Mhm.
And the challenge at Crandon is the fact it's in Crandon. We tried to talk about that with a vendor the other day. Is on the West Coast where I'm from, it's easy to get to King of the Hammers. It's easy to get the Mid 400. It's easy to get the Baja 1000. It's easy to get to the Sand Sport shows. SEMA.
Yeah.
All that stuff is there, and all the companies are there. So getting a bunch of activation at King of the Hammers isn't difficult, except for the amount of time that those people are there. But here, it's like you got to want to get to Crandon. This is a special trip that luckily a lot of it's now tied into more Midwest activations or events or East Coast, so it's not as bad. But it comes at a cost. I mean, it takes time, it takes people, and it takes an effort to get up here. It's a long way from nowhere, kind of basically.
Yes.
I love it up here, but it is. I mean, so that's a bit of a challenge we have here. But even so, our fan zone's full. Big activations coming this year again, and we must be doing something right. I don't know, but it's just I think it's just it's now it's almost FOMO, right? Now it's like now they know Labor Day is
Mm.
if we're going to put a stake in off-road in the Midwest, Crandon is like what represents the Midwest. Now there's obviously the series, that's all separate, but if I've heard that conversation where, hey, we need to do something in the Midwest, we're going to go to Crandon because we know it's a big event, and we're going to bring some dealers, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that, because the companies feel they have to. it's easy out there.
Mhm.
Like the other choice of events in the West Coast. And yes, there's more activity, there's more market there. I understand that. But with the side by sides and certainly things like the Ford Bronco, that's all, much more part of what's happening now in terms of the space. And, the Midwest is slowly growing. And like we know, this is Polaris country up here. I mean, this is the biggest market for Polaris is Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
that also, it's also part of the mix, right?
Yeah, well, so last year was our first time going up to Crandon, and it is a 12-hour drive for us because we bring our motor home. We stay at Camp Crandon, got our spot reserved, so we will be there this year. And
Good.
Adam and I were like, we loved it. Like just hearing what Chris and Amanda told us about what it was like to be at Crandon, and all the other racers and people that we talked to, they're like, you have to come to Crandon. And so yeah, last year we made the trip and we were like, we will come back here every year, no matter if we're just spectators or, one day maybe we'll have the opportunity to come race there. Like
Next
that would be
year.
a dream come true. Yeah,
Come on,
next
Megan.
year. We'll
Come
see.
on.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, we'll see if the stars align.
well, I always love hearing that from first time, visitors, right? It's a special place onto its own, right? It's a special town. It's a special facility. There is definitely a vibe that we feed into, by the way, a lot. Like we feed into this kind of rough but polished, but Midwest kind of hospitality mentality. Yeah, there's cheese curds and moonshine here, but and it's all of that. And the parties out in Camp Crandon, that's all part of the mix.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that away, but at the same time, that's what makes it special. And I tell the story often. When I first got here in 2014, I think is when I started here. Yeah, so it's 12 years ago. I almost want to put too much of a polish on it, make it too corporate. Took a minute to realize that Crandon isn't built on being corporate at all. In fact, it's the opposite. It's like we're going to get out of the corporate thing and come to Crandon. And we see that a lot more and more now with like we have a really great activation started a couple of years ago. It's the Gold Meadow Camp, and it's essentially our partner VIPs. So the president of Polaris is there. Our Red Bull contacts, Toyota contacts are all camping around this meadow and this pond we have back there. And we've expanded it this year to like 30 trailers. It's a lot, but they want to stay here. They want, if they're here, they want to watch, the stuff going off in the background there in the ultracross track back in Crandon land. They want to, sit by the campfire. They want to be here. And I remember that too, when I was coming here just as a journalist or whatever. I had so much fun and it was such a great vibe that when it was over, and we had access to all the bars and everything, but when it was over, it's like, I don't want to drive to the hotel. I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just so fun. And yeah, the vibe here, it permeates. You can't replicate it. You can expand it, and kind of how we've curated it a little bit. And like this year, we're going all in on kind of the Americana red, white, and blue theme with for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's the 250th anniversary of the country. It's also we feel like if the Indy 500 is Memorial Day, well, Labor Day is at Crandon. So we kind of book in the summer that way. Polaris is now the American Power Sports Company. They're leaning into that too. Kind of the opening ceremonies we do, especially for the Red Bull Cup race with, God Bless the USA, with singing that we do here, which is a really touching moment. We're leaning all into it. So I'm glad you felt it because everybody comes here and feels it. And it's beyond any of us who put this on that, it just kind of creates itself now. And, I think the thing that's the biggest secret here is Cliff Flannery he's been here, all 57 years. He didn't build this for racing. He didn't build all the extensions for the sport. He built it because he wanted to have hospitality. He wanted people to come and have a great time. Like, come here, like he says, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And that's one of his favorite sayings. And he literally, it doesn't matter if it's the bar down here or the pavilion up there or however it's done, fire, anything, part of it, the parade, it's all done because he just wants to host people here. And I think, at his core, that's what he does, right? He sits on the machine every day and he loves to move dirt and all that, but it's only because it's making his facility better, right? I mean, the upgrades this year, when we signed the agreement with Ultra 4, immediately he was on the earth moving equipment back there, building out a double, triple size, hill and obstacles just for the Ultra 4 guys. just because they were coming.
Nice.
So now it's even better. And now, it's just part of what he does. And, it just lends itself to, well, okay, we're going to have 2 nights of Ultra 4 racing. Let's go run the Class 11s back there too, because we can go around the rocks, and it's just going to be a more fun event for the Class 11 guys. Because they'll run the ultra cross course, and then Sunday they'll run the medium-sized track, the regular track at Crandon, and that'll make it more fun for them. So again, it's never the same. Although we try to make it the same, it never is the same. Every year is different.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way that you talked about like leaning into the intentionality of some of these things, the intentionality of being, the bookend on the summer, the intentionality of being like the American experience, and also, the intentionality of it being about the fan experience more so than it is about the racing. I think these are all things that racers could really take back and see that these are not things that you just accidentally stumbled upon and it worked. These are things that with intention, you guys are crafting to bring in the right people over and over again and create an experience that people relate to on kind of the most base level of like, this is who I am and this is how I identify.
Yeah, and it's a funny story. When we started expanding the Gold Meadow camp, it was undulating, so there was some problems getting the trailers, and we needed a level, and it just was getting bigger. The conversations, well, Marty, we can just put down the dirt and put granite down. I'm like, no granite, no dirt. It's all about the grass. Like what Crandon did took a while to understand. I joke about it. It doesn't matter. The reason the racetrack looks beautiful in our television production or photography or whatever is it's green. Everything's green. The Field of Dreams, right? If you're used to watching going to like Glen Helen, Lucas Oil races, that was just dirt everywhere. But it's the green. Even the campgrounds are green. That's all grass. I said, that's what people love to come to. That feels like to us, especially the West Coast people or whatever, makes this place special. It's like a park. In fact, we just went down to Road America last weekend to have an activation down there, just to kind of do it, right? We're good friends with their team now, and we have a great alliance with them. But that place, if you've ever been there, that's the most beautiful racetrack in America by far. And it's just a big park with grass and trees, and it's amenities are beautiful. They have big races there. They're us on steroids for sure. But the philosophy for them is the same as us. One fan at a time. It's the fan experience as much as we can do it. And they have big staff to do those things. Because again, they run IndyCar races, IMSA races, big NASCAR races. They run big races there. But again, it's all part of it. Like when I get here, it's not, especially like when, like, I don't know, like Saturday of Labor Day weekend, sometimes I'll go to the suites on the other side, and we always intentionally keep those races like it's sunset, or when the Pro 2, Pro 4 have to be kind of when there's like that golden hour light. Why? Because it just looks great. It looks great on television. And you're standing there as a fan and you're looking down, and it looks like the Field of Dreams. It just looks beautiful. Like if the weather's nice, which we always pray for, it's like, wow, look at that. Like there's no place I'd rather be than this place right here. And that's part of it. Why we do that, why we run night racing, why, there's a why for everything here. It always is. It doesn't just creates things like, well, if we did that, now we can do that. And that's, and you start, especially when you start factoring in the fact that now Crandon, I'm the executive producer, but we produce 19 hours of live television for Racer here on Labor Day weekend, from the preview show on the parade all the way to the Red Bull Cup race. Everything that's not Champ is produced by us. It's the same crew, but it's our talent, our production, our game day trailer, our all the features that we do. We do that separately. But when you get to that phase of doing things, then things like, what does it look like? What does it look like? And what's funny is I once, Chris Carlson is the owner of ERX. And one of the things I told him, that there's magic at his racetrack. He doesn't even understand what's magic. The magic part is they schedule the Pro 2s and Pro 4s right when they're getting backlit dust off. There's split lane there. And if you watch it looks like, wow, look at that. Like that sun is going behind the dust. It's making everything gold. And it just makes everything look so dynamic. And he said, really? I said, yeah, that if you're watching television or watching the live stream, that's what's going to strike to you more than anything. Look at that one shot. It's interesting. Yeah. And so now, of course we're not, sitting still either. So now this year, It's crazy. But one of our producers, Bryant Lambert, does a great job on a lot of our features. He's really, really good. He's been here a long
Yes,
time.
he is.
Yeah, and we worked together on some storytelling. We worked together for a long time. Anyway, Brian called and said, "Hey, Marty, so I'm at Stagecoach at Coachella, and I'm using this insane 4K camera that rotates and does all this stuff it's a cable cam." I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, I want to bring a cable cam to Crandon." I'm like, "Okay, well, what are you talking about?" He said, "No, it's like a now we measure it's like almost a 2,000-foot run from a cable that's going to be hanging from the suites all the way past the Argonne corner. So you're going to
Holy
have these
cow.
shots that are just like going to be like insane. No, it's
That's
not
cool.
a drone shot. It's much different. And I think it's,
Yeah.
we had to go find a sponsor for it, which we did. And but again, it's just one of those things. And that's what people I think miss is those details and the ability for us to kind of take a lead on things like that and just find a way. Like we're going to find, okay, book it now. Now it's up to me to go find some money to support it. It's just like the Class 11 deal. We love Class 11 here, like those Volkswagens, but fans love, the kids love. There's no doubt, and they're part of the family here. After this will be our 6th year as a world championship, but in order to do that, the racers were saying, well, we come in from the West Coast and hey, we could use some support on that. And we understand that is a truly kind of, except for some people like you, Amanda, who have cars here. There's a handful of cars here, but
There's 3 of us.
there's 3 of you guys and you're all racing, but the majority are coming from California. And look, they don't have a sanctioning group. Like they don't have one guy you can go to and say, okay, bring the cars. That means you take care of tech. That means you take care of all all those road
Yes.
racers, which they kind of are by nature, which is fine.
Yes.
So, but then Crandon has to go take care of tech. We have to go bring in, Liam from USAC and get some tech people here to take care of that, and then go find some sponsorship to help, help those guys. And we have a sponsor who's going to deal with the racers directly, and hopefully get that signed up here in the next couple of days, just to aid in some of their travel. I mean, but no other racetrack I know of, at least off-road race, is going to go to that level. Like they're going to say, well, here's a race. We're going to schedule for you guys and show up, and here's where you're going to be.
And here's what it'll cost.
Yeah, that's what it'll cost. And even Crandon hasn't, for Class 11, hasn't ever had an entry fee at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys come, that'll help with your entry fee, and here you get 2 wristbands for your team, and doing what we can too. That's in fairness, because we have obviously a lot of other race teams here.
Yes.
But most of the champ teams are based here, either based here or come here for the summer to race here. On that side. And then, the Ultra 4 guys are coming from kind of everywhere. So, but even that, we're trying to help the EMC classes and trying to, because we love watching those guys. And, it's not always the unlimited guys. It's the guys who are, it's all that super stock. It's just it's this big mix of, what we're doing here. I love it. Now we have Rally X here too. So, and vintage cars in June. And, so we pretty much are tapping out on whatever we can bring here, at least in terms of off-road motorsports. There's not much left.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe some 2-wheel. And I think that's about all you're missing, right?
Yeah.
I thought about it for June. What happens if you open this up to bikes? We've had bikes here in the past. I mean, that was not anything new. In fact, the June race, we had a couple of the original, which I think somebody brought Johnny Greaves' original motorcycle here. Right. So again, the historic stuff is something that's new. I think it's going to catch on more. We have like 18 cars here in June, and we have some time in the schedule to do that. And it's just part of it, and again, where are the trucks and cars? They've got to be out there, like all over. I restored one of our Schmidt's super buggies or pro buggies, which I love that car now. But it's just, we took it to Road America, and it was amazing because that car got as much attention as Corey Winter's Pro 2 ride truck.
Yes.
Like the old buggy, my old car did. And,
That's awesome.
Art's old car, but it's that's cool. It's just nice. Cool. I mean, next year some guy saw it, and he has Art's Pro Light, and I think he's in Georgia, so he's going to get it running, bring it up next year. I'm going to convert my car back to Art's colors, and I think we'll make Art like the Grand Marshal or something. Just that's what we're going to do. I don't know how that's going to go, but again, nobody else is going to do it, so let's try it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'd love to ask you more later about Road America, but I would love to know, a little bit kind of more of your role with the sponsorship. So you kind of mentioned like, hey, we got this new camera, we need to find a sponsor for it. So is that kind of how it works? Like there, you have an asset and then you try to find a partner to kind of cover that, or what role does sponsorship actually play in your work and the projects that you're leading?
Yeah. So as a promoter, really it breaks down to a couple things. Like I deal a lot with the sanctioning bodies. I do a lot of the scheduling work for the weekend. Well, that's all coming. And then almost every national sponsor that's here, partners here is all, I brought them here. I deal with them all year long. Doesn't matter who it is. It's Polaris, Method Wheel, Yokohama, the list is long, and it's not, the thing that happens here, which I think is great, but, and what they're looking for is if they want to come here, it's a great event for them to shoot the activations and content, right? That's what they want.
Mhm.
And, we facilitate a lot of that. Like, it's not just, we'll show up and you guys do it. And I'll explain some things in a minute, but there's that, there's the, basically being a spokesman for the track a lot. And it's also now at this point, it's writing press releases and those type of things. And then also the television side on Racer too. I produce a lot of that, which I enjoy the most, but I don't have much time to work on it. But I have
Oh,
great people
okay.
to care of that. But now we're going to minute by minute rundowns of, like the parade and who's going to be on. And it was a lot, we kind of winged it before. It's like, okay, grab this guy and put on. I don't
Right.
want to do that anymore either. So because
Yes.
we didn't make mistakes, it's work and it looks great. It's probably Racer says it's some of the best content they have on their network, period. It doesn't matter what motorsports it is. From Crandon,
Wow.
the stuff we produce, they love it because it's just such a high level of execution. It's not, we don't treat it like live stream at all. It's a television broadcast in the old fashioned sense of,
Yeah.
we got great announcers. We're going to bring, we're going to do some storytelling here. We're going to have Bryant do some great features that tell the story of here. And it's television as much as we can afford it, right? I mean, it's still limits. If we had more, we need a bigger truck. We need a lot more, but we do a lot with a little, and it shows, right? It's just like the cable camera. And we brought in-car cameras here for the first time a couple of years ago with the Starstream deal. That didn't happen.
Yes.
So, it's all that. That's a lot of fun to do that. I mean, I really enjoy that part of it. And looking at it afterwards, like, yeah, that turned out really good. So, but that's kind of my role. I run an agency called the Rensport Group. I do other off-road projects from time to time. We're just relaunching a brand called Jackman Wheel, for instance. Jackman was the first off-road wheel company ever, like back in the late 70s, early 80s. And they were famous in the Jeeping world and the mini trucks and certainly Baja Bugs and Volkswagens. And they had this distinctive style of artwork that a guy named Dave Deal was this legendary graphic artist, kind of cartoon art that he created. And I had a friend who had just sold Method Wheel. He and his son had sold Method Wheel. They started KMC too. And they were looking for the next thing. And I knew that this brand was out there. They were trying to make it a go, but another guy from Texas, a gentleman, and wasn't going to go. And so I got in touch with him. I got in touch with the Jackmans, who are still alive. Harry and Cheryl Jackman are still alive, and basically took a year to kind of bring the trademarks and the rights and all things together. So they just launched, and they're going to be, becoming a bigger brand. But sometimes on those things, if I have a chance to do those kind of things, I like doing those. And otherwise, I'm trying to actually slow down a little bit, if that makes sense. I'm still racing, still building cars and bikes and, doing all that stuff. But it just, I like focusing on this.
Yeah.
This is to me now, especially, I basically feel like I run like the Indianapolis off-road racing. Like this is
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
feels, I don't have to feel like that. And, that's a pretty great, at the end of a long career, it's a pretty good, kind of way to end it necessarily. I don't know when that's going to be. I'm still here. But the great part is now is that I've got like, before it was basically the office manager and Cliff and I basically doing a lot of everything, right? It's a lot. Now, Jason Flannery, Cliff's son, is here as a president. Now, Jason's, kids are here, right? They're, everybody's here working. So it's become much more of a family business. It's become a lot more structured, which is nice on some level, which takes a lot of it off of kind of putting fires out. But also, it also has given me the opportunity to kind of mentor, Ty Flannery and Jason, just here, this is how, at first they didn't, it's easy to kind of look at it and not understand the nuances of everything.
Yeah.
Right. But they, when they finally start asking questions, it's like, look, there's a why for everything here. There's a why. Why is this? Why is that? I can explain everything. It may have started 10 years ago, the why, or the 2 months ago, or why, or this is intersected here, here, and here. And we're putting the puzzle pieces together. that's how it works. And just, it's hard work. We're the only off-road track I know of that has, at least a facility has a full-time promoter. Nobody else does. And that was Cliff taking a chance all those years ago.
Since Jason and his kids have really kind of stepped in over the last few years, honestly, it even shows on the racer side. I mean, Ty calls Chris probably every couple weeks after any race, and especially after we're at Crandon. And he's like, so what did you think? Where can we improve? Like, what is your viewpoint from the racer standpoint?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
That's not something
That's
that I
awesome.
think you guys had the capacity to do previously. There just weren't enough people.
No. There weren't enough people, and certainly I had my I had my inside people. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? What, just kind of run it by them. But no, we did. I mean, I was too busy on the other side. That's the kind of stuff I'm glad Ty's here to do, right? And we're trying to factor it all in. It's never perfect, and we know, it'd be easy to just, like in June, just run a champ race, but and because basically it's just opening the park on and just letting it go. And, there's not much room for growth here because you have this facility made for this, and you either are pretty much tapped out. I think we're 10 campsites away from being sold out for Labor Day, and the schedule's full because, well, we just like to host a lot of racers, and we like to give the fans a lot of entertainment. And now we have ability to actually broadcast those races to Racer, like so.
Yes.
F11, Rally X, Ultra 4, and all Red Bull Sundays, all on basically on our network, as it were.
Yeah.
So that we keep that because it's content for them, but it's also giving back to Ultra 4 guys and the Racer. It's all part of the mix. And but yeah, it's nice to have Ty be able to do that because there's just no time. We tried. I mean, look, and the racers are they're a fickle bunch, right? They're hard to please. I mean, I've come to learn that. I mean, by comparison, the desert group is much simpler to please, much easier. I mean, they bitch and moan a little bit, but they're going racing. They're going to Baja. As long as the trails are there and marked, and they're simple. It's not as here. It's a kind of a thankless job in a lot of ways. It just is, and you have to kind of get a thick skin. And I'm just going to move forward with this, or we're going to move forward with this because, again, the why, because this is where it could lead us, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
And I think, here in the Midwest, I don't have a ton of desert experience. We were out there for the Mint 400. We've been out to Hammers a couple times. But, here in the Midwest, I see a really stark contrast between the grassroots and the pro level racers. And I don't necessarily mean the sportsmen versus pros. What I mean is there are two groups that are looking for incredibly different outcomes from their racing. Sportsmen or grassroots racers, or even some of the pros, are looking for more seat time. They want to go out there and win. And then, what I would call a true professional racer is looking to be that fan-facing experience for the fans that is out there to bring value to their partners. Like, it's a really different outcome that they're looking for. And those two things don't always look for the same kind of thing from tracks or series.
No, I mean, it's you're right. And I understand, like the seat time issue. I think I understand it because I'm watching these short course races. And to me, however many 10 laps around this place seems like a lot. I mean, how much more are you guys going to go? How much further racing you kind of need? I mean, unless we race 3 races a weekend, I mean, I don't know what from the technical side, like what more. So if I added 5 minutes to the race, would that matter that much? I don't know. I don't know if it would. I don't know. But what the challenge though is, it's not from a promoter's perspective. It's not this, like we embrace the sportsman here. We love, we keep that camp there specifically for them. That's not touched. We don't have Ultra 4 guys camping there or Class 11 guys there or Rally X. It's all for sportsmen, like we have it. And, pro pits are the pro pits, and that's not going to change. And, we're the only track that puts in additional money for the sportsmen every race weekend, right? It's not a lot, but when you break it down, but it is something, trying to make them happy. Yeah, the pro guys have a different conversation, and, but even that gets kind of watered down a little bit. And it's understandable, but, but from a promoter perspective, certain things move the needle in terms of selling tickets or keeping fans entertained, right? And as much as we love watching youth racing here, which we do, it's the future of the sport, and we're actually doing some things this year to kind of even promote the youth classes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. That's not what necessarily the general public is necessarily coming for, right?
Right.
And so Ultra 4 back there, the rock racing thing that happened Saturday night, now Friday night. Yeah, that's a fan favorite. Class 11, yeah, fans love that. So it's always that mix, and then you have the challenge of the series adding more classes too, and then you're like, well, we're running the schedule basically like you guys do every other race. Like the track time's the same, the practice time is the same. It's the same. It's the same. But except for Red Bull Sunday, obviously we run laps there. There's more time on Sunday to do driver introductions and do what Red Bull Sunday is supposed to be. It's just pros.
Right.
It's still only 9 races. It makes life so much easier on the scheduling side and the television side. Now you can do much more interviews, much more storytelling, right?
Yeah.
But from a promoter's perspective, it's difficult, and it's hard. And the thing you have to remember is the fan sitting in the grandstands or on the grass. Sure, a lot of them are hardcore, especially here, especially Labor Day. They'll watch everything. But a lot of them, if they're coming for Saturday with their son or Sunday, Saturday especially, when you have all this racing going. Remember, I have 55 races in 3 days.
Yeah.
So if you add it up, but then maybe they're watching, the youth classes, the sportsman classes or whatever, and they don't understand that the pro classes are coming. And that's what, a Pro 2 and Pro 4 and all the pro classes kind of really are the excitement part of this racetrack, especially the 2s and 4s, the noise. We know that. But you're asking people to spend 8 hours sitting there waiting for that instead of just saying, okay, here's a sportsman block. So this is what we're doing. I think Labor Day, we got the youth block, the sportsman block, and the pro block on Saturday. They're all together that way. So it becomes easier to understand, right?
Yeah.
And it's easier to say, okay, now we understand what it is. And I think, that's a tough thing on promoters too. And the racers can complain, but you know what? And what's funny is they always say, well, the late models, yeah, that's one class. The midgets, one class. Sprint cars, one class. They're going to get a lot of money because that's only one. There's one winner.
Yeah.
Or first, second, third, whatever that is. Here, how many? Even the Red Bull Sunday, there are 9 winners, right? And we give away, $250,000 on Red Bull Sunday, and still, guys still saying it's not enough. Well, who else is even close? Nobody. Thanks to Red Bull and Polaris, we can do that, and it's not going to the racetrack altogether. It's going to production too, but it goes right back. We did it for the racers, for the purse, right?
Yeah.
And that's often a challenge too. I've laughed about that. You sit there and at the drivers' meeting, like on Sunday, and you rattle off, $250,000 in, cash and prizes, which includes the Polaris we give away, and it's dead silent. Like it's become to be expected now. You sit there and go, what other entity in the sport, what other day pays more? There's not one day in off-road racing that pays more than we do on Labor Day Sunday. Not one. So, but it's, you don't see them excited about it. It's weird, but that's how it is.
Yeah. You're talking a lot about how the partners are involved in this. Polaris, Red Bull, obviously putting in big money. And I think what racers tend to see most or what they notice most or maybe expect most for those partners is, banners on a fence or, the name on the arch over the finish line or things like that. We find that a lot of grassroots racers really believe that that sticker on the car is their primary value, and a banner on a fence is what a track is giving these partners that are bringing in, you said $250,000 were given away in one day, right? What do you think about that kind of static exposure? Is that what you're selling to your partners, or do you sell more valuable assets to them?
Well, for me, the sales process is certainly not a menu item. We don't have a menu of, okay, here's our goal package. I just don't want to have that discussion because it's limiting. And it's also essentially saying to the sponsor, look, we're not going to pay any attention to what your needs are. Our needs are to make money for the sponsorship. And here's what we have. I found that doesn't work at all. Some of these partnerships take years. I mean, literally, like IBOC now, like this year, we talked about, we're going to, they've taken over the victory podium, right? That's been I've known Wilfred IBOC for 25 years, but working with IBOC, that's been a 3-year, bring them here, see it now. You guys have this idea. You have a winner's circle like thing that you're doing for your customer base. It's like a promotion. It's called the IBOC Winner Circle. Let's bring you a real winner circle. You have this asset to do that against. That's a better way to sell to me. In terms of the signage, it's not as much. It's important at some level, but that conversation is almost less and less. It's packaged into space. Like, some of our partners, they get their space and they get a billboard. Okay, that's packaged into one thing. They like that. So to some, it doesn't matter. To some, it's the ability to, like, the most creative company, probably Polaris, has gotten more and more creative. Yokohama has definitely been creative. They come, they take Crandon, and they activate on whatever thing they do. Like a couple of years ago, they brought back their original livery from 1989. I was part of that race team too. But all the cars here, all the Yokohama cars had the same red, white, historic livery for Yokohama. That was cool. I thought it was really cool. But then last year they brought a Bassmaster fisherman, right? We did some activation around that. We had a VIP like fishing tournament Saturday morning around the pond, but he was there. And then we had a kids tournament when he was there. That's cool. And they're bringing back a female version of him now this year. Actually, a person I haven't met yet, but apparently she's from Wisconsin. She's a Bassmaster, HER, and she's going to give a seminar to women on fishing. Like, we're going to have, like, she's going to interact with the public.
Oh, no way.
So again, you just have to say, okay, well, we have a pond. Now, the problem is, or the challenge is, every time you stack that stuff up, now for us, or for me specifically, it's like, God, how are we going to keep track of all these activations? They can't just go back there and do it. They need to be, it needs to be announced. It needs to be, maps made to how to get there. We need to have fishing poles. It's like all that. It just adds, more. And so it's what we love to do. And, now it becomes, something where, Ford Racing brings their simulators. Toyota is a beautiful booth here. They like to just be Toyota, as Toyota being big and bold. And that's a 2-day job just to set their booth up, right? It takes 2 days. So they come in a big way. It varies, right? Now, for instance, we have a kind of a consortium here of Optima batteries coming for the first time. They're going to be back in the VIP camp, but they're set up from cameras or bar setup, which is super cool, called Sparky's Cantina. And then they bring an 80-foot tractor trailer to the fan zone, but it has a deck. And Hellas now has a deck. They have a deck set up too. So all the VIPs go up on the deck. And that's also part of Yokohama's deal. So those three companies are working together because they're bringing some dealers, right? And by the way, we want, Marty, we need to get Corey Winter on some time on the track to give our dealers rides on the ride truck. Okay. So it's just, what I think people don't understand is the level of work to really do it right. And the fact that, the track needs support to have me or have any one of our staff be here to actually help execute that, right? That's part of the job. And a lot of times, I think sometimes I remember a friend of mine, Mark McMillan, his family's been desert racing forever, McMillan Racing. They've been here a couple of times too. And, but he once looked at me, I talked about sponsorship with him, and he looked at me and said, for the amount of time most of these take, the amount of effort most of these take, it's not worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? It's just not, there's not much there. And I think, but at the other hand, like for sportsmen, let's say especially, what I don't see on behalf, and it doesn't matter. I remember having this conversation with a Pro 4 driver years ago. So Crandon sets the table. So the table is set with 60,000 fans over 3 days. Now it's more. And now we got a parade of about 15,000 people. That's separate. And we're giving you the world's best venue. We're giving you the biggest crowd. We're also giving you the best purse, Red Bull Sunday. And now we're adding, at that point, it was NBC television with the Red Bull Signature Series. We set the table. Now, if you guys can't take advantage of the table, that's not our fault. Like, if you can't sell that, well, there's no other place you can go that actually has that table to give you. And so sometimes I also kind of challenge back, like, well, how come? If you want to get a local, let's say it's a buggy racer, right? It's a horse and buggy racer. Well, just, maybe it's just a matter of going to find an enthusiast that owns a body shop and bring him here and let him see that, and, in exchange for, I don't know, an entry fee and some paint. It's even to that level, right? The big sponsors aren't going to, be there. You have to, but that also calls an investment in social media. They have to make yourself, it's kind of a catch-22 situation, right?
Mhm.
And it's a challenge. And, but I don't see people ever doing that. It's like they, they, they don't know how, or they don't want to make the effort, but it's not on my level where I'm looking down. It isn't even pro racers. Like, look, we do everything we can to make sure we have the largest race on the series. And, we're kind of right there on our second race with Bark River, the way I see it, right? In terms of
Mhm.
spectator count and all that. So, here you've got, some really good numbers to go against you. And we're just doing one-off. You just start the relationship with a one-off at Labor Day Crandon. And hey, we're going to paint this car, whatever livery you guys have, we'll come up with, and we'll do it just for the 2 races we race, or even the pros, the pro specs going to race 3 times this year. So, it's just going to be for those 3 races, but we got television here. We got this, then start with that. And I also said this too, and this is very important when I was racing too, still on, but product is money. So if
Yes.
a tire company comes and going to give you free tires, that's not free to them. Yes,
Right.
they're going to put a retail value on. Hey, we gave you $1,000 retail of tires. We know it costs X amount less to actually make the tires, but that doesn't matter. In their minds, that's what they're providing you, right? And
Mhm.
so the racers always make a mistake that they kind of downplay. Well, they're just giving me product. Well, okay, but you have to pay for that product, and if you do well, it doesn't mean they can't. We can't potentially get performance bonuses, whatever it is. If you do well, you win a certain amount of money. But don't ever look down on that, because that's it doesn't matter what you're getting in terms of that. That's what I mean. It's more than a decal on the car. It's a lot of communication with that particular company. It's what do you guys want? Do you want do we need a nice photograph of the car, or a photo shoot, or do you need to whatever it may be? But it's always starting from that. What can we do for you? Always
Yeah.
first. Yeah. And I use this a lot of times when I sit across a table, which I like to do a lot of personal meetings. So that's another thing. I'll fly anywhere to have a meeting with. Doesn't matter if it's Lucas Oil at one time.
Really?
No. I'll fly to Polaris, Minnesota from California just for a 2-hour meeting. Absolutely. It
Wow.
just feels better. Like,
Yeah.
I made the effort to come here personally. And when I go there, I want to be the guy that they actually want to talk to and see. Like, we
Yes.
take that approach. Like, we're going to be approachable. We're going to be super flexible. We're going to be creative. We're going to do what we say to the best of our ability. And the best of our ability means even staffing, right? Or whatever it may be. But yeah, that touch makes a big difference to me. And there's another thing we do here too, which has been very effective. Very effective. We actually every year come out with what we call a brand book. It's essentially a hardbound book with beautiful photography, amazing printing, presentation box. All the stats are in there. Photography, what we're going to do next year. It's all in one. I mean, hardbound, beautiful book with like metallic paper, and we have made overseas, and they still cost a reasonable amount to print and send. But it doesn't matter, because like as sponsorships work, and you guys know this, most of the time you're dealing with director of marketing, or in some cases you're dealing with the agency, right? Like, let's say
Mhm.
Red Bull has 6-speed, or Polaris has 6-speed. We deal with six-speed at first, and then we started dealing with their agency, and then now their events people started coming, and now their executives are coming, right? But it's taken a minute to get there. But a lot of times they'll say, Marty, this book is so valuable, because they ask, why are we at Crandon? And I just show them the book, and this is why.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
most of the time they don't even read
Love
all of
that.
it, but they just are like, okay, that they get it, because it exudes this sense of professionalism and quality that
Yes.
we try to maintain as much as we can. Again, there's always limits to everything, but that's a big effort to do, and an expense, but it's paid off. It's paid off in subtle ways. It may again take a year or two to kind of blossom. It doesn't happen all the time, and patience is probably the one thing that has been, especially looking back on, patience is the one thing that's probably the biggest key to success for me here, is
Yeah.
understanding, just as Cliff said, we got to get them here first. Sometimes that takes 2 or 3 years. You got to get them here. They got to see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No matter how good the book is, or how much they're seeing of our videos on television or whatever, they got to get here. And then that's the first step. And then you come back, and then, okay, now what are we going to do with that? And and then the other thing that we creatively had to do here is break the whole pile up. Like, so Red Bull Sunday was the first thing, right? When we said to the old series, hey, we're taking back our Sunday. It's not a points race, but it's a lot of money and it's all great television. And we're going to that's what we're going to do. We're going to make East Coast and West Coast rules come together. Because at that time, the West Coast guys couldn't race Pro 2 and Pro 4 here because of some fairly mild rules. They were not like ends of the earth stuff. So we brought in, one of the best tech guys in the business, a guy named Tommy Morris, who's been around forever, and made him our tech director and came up with a balance of performance rules. And now, Kyle, the Duke could come and the Anderson brothers could come and Bryce Menzies could come. And now we have off-road racing world championships the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like when they're running against themselves, that's not a world championship race. And they admitted it too. So now we got competition. Well, at first that was sacrilegious. Like nobody liked it because they were missing a points race. But at the end of the day, would you guys rather win a points race or would you rather win Crandon Labor Day Sunday? Like that's Super Bowl Sunday to us. So that's all gotten now. But so we had to break that piece apart, which let us basically also bring different sponsors in because it wasn't associated with the series, right? That was the opportunity to do that. And then that kind of blossomed. And then, even then we were able to like have Amsoil here, but have Lucas Oil here for a time too, right? Well, that's the race. Yeah, it's an Amsoil series, but we can do whatever. We changed branding from Saturday night to Sunday early on a lot. Like we're putting up different bands.
I noticed that.
The series off, like, this is Sunday. We can't, the fan zone is Switzerland. Anybody can display there. That nobody can hold that exclusive. But the other thing that helped now we've got Crandon Land. Now we've got the Ultra 4 deal. Well, that's almost separate. That's we can do separate things back there which aren't part of the front track. And that allows us to do some different things back there. That's where you kind of have to get creative too. And we have done that. And there's problems and there's challenges and some, but nobody really feels like they have exclusivity over the whole thing, right? You say, hey, Polaris knows that like CF Motor is going to display this year and Can-Am's coming with Ultra 4, but it's still a Polaris weekend. All you see is Polaris. There's Polaris everywhere. And so, eventually that comes down to, we want everybody to come to our table, right? We want to serve dinner to everybody. So, but it's sometimes you have to be very careful with that, obviously. And, there's obviously big things like with Red Bull with pouring rights here and some other things like that, but they've been a partner for 12 years. I mean, I never thought when we first started sitting down with them, or I started sitting down with them, that was going to last that long. I had no idea. And now as Racer calls it, this is a 10-pole event for them. And it's, it's a more regional still. It's not like a national event, like let's say an activation with Red Bull down at like the Miami Grand Prix, which is a huge, huge cost and a huge building that they're building. This is a little more down home, but our main contact at Red Bull, she says this is her favorite event of the year. Like she goes to every, and this is her favorite one. And so when I hear that, and they're, just got off the phone call with them, what they're doing, it's really that. I think if there's one thing that I also take away from this is that's success. If you can have these companies come back, and we've lost a couple, not many, but we've lost a couple. And for instance, the Lucas Oil thing was great for a long time until Forrest Lucas died, essentially. And then family shifted, and we didn't know it until right after PRI was the last. So we didn't know that was coming, right? I mean, so it was a fairly big program for us. I mean, at one time, Lucas Oil and MAV TV. They were joined. So that was even a bigger conversation. Thankfully, we were able to bridge the gap between MAV TV and Racer, because I had known Racer ever since they started as a magazine at that time. And, we were able to make this a 10-pole event for them now, and they love this event. But, but sometimes you're going to lose. Sometimes, but you have to also look back and think, you know what? We had 5 good years with them. They came and allowed us to build some buildings and do some things here that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So you can't look at it with any regret. Corporate stuff shifts, and that's that. And I think one of the things that's funny that Ty Flannery talks about all the time, actually now he's starting to see it, is that these big companies, people like change. So the people you've been talking to for a year and a half, guess what? They're gone now. They moved on to their position. have to like literally leave the book with them and or get a contract in place for a couple of years so that you're safe and you can make the transition.
Yeah.
And there's
Yes.
traditional years we have too. You know, it's obviously some companies with people there for a long time, right? Long time, but a lot of times they're not.
Yeah.
The bigger the company is, the more that happens, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
And so you have to be aware of that too. You know, it's a shifting all the time, and it can be frustrating sometimes too. And you got to start from scratch. And no, this didn't happen. Or we were this close, but guess what? He left, or now there's a tariff, or there's a budget shift, or you know, and so you know all that stuff.
No kidding. We've been with Nexen Tire. I think this is our 6th year with Nexen Tire, and in that time frame, we've had 4 different marketing teams that we've worked with. And I can tell you with utmost certainty that if it was not for the fact that we had negotiated some multi-year contracts in there, I think we would have gotten a lot, maybe not cut, but like I think we would have gotten a lot more scrutiny before we had the chance to prove ourselves to the new teams. So you were spot on with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're right, and that happens, and that's why you also try to ingrain yourself. Like with us with Polaris, you know, we definitely have relationships within their brand amp group. But you know, they've been coming here for years. You know, you try to realize it's not just the one guy; it's all the people, and it's even the people like Polaris, even the people who are just bringing the tractor trailers. Like last year, I went over to Polaris because Sunday night at Crandon is our you know World Cup party, and that's when all of us get to go and just you know it all depends. There's a different temperature reading. Last year I knew it was going to be off the hook because Cliff calls. Yes, he does. Hey Marty, you get that damn you know RJ Anderson down here. And he could bring the damn cup down here, which is Cliff's way of saying we're gonna party. And so I call RJ, say, hey man, it's on. You know, bring it down. And you know, the tradition here obviously is when we pour it full of beer and you know, Cliff sits there and MCs with a microphone, brings racers and our staff and, you know, to drink out of the cup. We did it during COVID too.
Yes.
2020. Oh, yeah.
So the point is, you know, I could think about Polaris, all the guys who were working to clean up you know, it's a big activation they have, loading the machines and the tractor trailer and tearing down. I went to our main events guy, said, hey, Ben, you know, why don't you invite all those guys? Come in and have a beer with us, you know? And that bit of hospitality, that's what he talked about when I saw him last time, that allowing him to extend that invitation to them was the big deal. And again, that's a big thing we find. And the other thing that actually works here quite a bit is like our Gold Meadow camp, that's B2B at its best, right? You put Toyota people, the Red Bull people, the Ford, and then the rule is there's no selling of anything by anybody. There's no pitches. There's no anything. It's going to be, we're going to have a good time. Sure, we can talk about that later. Yeah, let's talk about that when I'm done. Or let them organically come up with their own collaborations, whatever it is. And Crandon brought them together, and it may or may not benefit Crandon, whatever they're talking about. But the fact that we brought them together and started a relationship that way organically is powerful. It's really powerful. It's actually a kind of the secret sauce that we didn't really understand a couple of years ago. And we actively work to get some of these people here. Like, hey, we got a trailer for you. You know, you show up, it's all done. I mean, yes, they cover the cost of it, but they don't do anything. Like trailer set, ready to go, beds in it. You know, we have campfires and food and a bar, and we shuttle things. And you know, again, you know, sometimes I think the racers miss that. It's like, let's get these guys together and let them just introduce them and let them go. And, you know, they'll build something around that. And, you know, that's another secret. You know, there's all kinds of things, but as you can hear, it's subtle. Like a lot of the things you learn is just super subtle. And like I said, sometimes you lose. Sometimes I delay putting a proposal in because I'm waiting for this piece of the puzzle to maybe commit more, or this overhead sign is available now. It wasn't like 3 months ago, but yeah, we're waiting to give this to you because I think that's what you want. And I've made mistakes that way too. I've made mistakes of waiting. Well, have you had that? Yeah, I know, but generally they come back anyway. Or a lot of times you have to be also kind of really flexible, and sometimes in how the structure of the deal is done. Like we've done a lot where they come in, they're through their budget cycle. Well, this year we'll do this. We agree to that. If next year we go kind of the level we're supposed to be, or we'll make the next 2 years of that for the first year add up to 3 years. We've done that as well. We just said, hey, it's a 3-year deal. This first year we're going to do this, but then we're going to average it out over the 3 years, and then the next 2 years they're paying more. But it's at the end of this contract, it's all the same. We have the ability to do that. Not everybody does, but again, that's part of how we do business here. It's just being hospitable again, just not, it's not the hard sell. We try not to be anyway. At some point you have to kind of say, hey, we got to get this done or not. I'm in the middle of that right now, trying to make sure we can execute in time right in the next 3 weeks. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would love to go back to the cross promotion that you had mentioned. So being at IMSA in Road America. And so you said you had Corey Winter's Pro 2 truck out there. You had your old car out there as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So to a lot of people who are, they're like, well, how does that even work? You have kind of two different contrasting racing with road racing. It's kind of more high end. And what you had said, like off-road is that rough, but kind of polished. So what was the goal in mind that you had with that to bring that to that crowd and resonate with that brand new audience who probably had never seen a Pro 2 truck before?
Yeah, no, they hadn't. And, or a buggy, like that was alien to them. But it's also, it goes back a little bit to a couple of things. A couple of years when COVID came, I reached out to Road America because we are both in Wisconsin. We were gonna go racing in COVID because we could in Wisconsin. And so I took Keen, our office manager, at the time down there, and I said, we're going to go to Road America and just see how they're doing, because they probably will do it better. We're going to learn everything. And in fact, we learned everything. Like we went there and said, okay, they did this, took pictures. And I tried to do a kind of more of an alliance back then. It didn't quite work out. But then at PRI about 4 years ago, I met the president of Road America, Mike Kircher, and great guy. Like we hit it off. And I said, hey, next year, why don't you come on Red Bull Sunday? Just come up for the day. It's only 3 hours away. So he made the trip by himself and, gave him the VIP tour, let him especially go in the infield in the special spot. There's a special spot on the racetrack. I can take people that's unlike anything else in racing. Anything. It doesn't look like anything from the grandstands at all. But the calamity corner, as it's called, when they're racing, and you can put a guy already 3 feet in front of a Pro 2 or Pro 4. It's like, and especially in the cup race, it's like literally mental. It's like you can't even fathom what you're seeing. It's so loud and violent. I remember taking Rob McCachran there one year, and he said, I look like that? Man, this is scary. I said, yeah, because inside the truck, it probably doesn't look like anything either. But when you're standing, Mike fell in love with it. And then we saw each other again at the PRI show, and we just kind of, started forming an alliance. Like, hey, he knew that I had a sports car background, an IndyCar background. So I really respect all that, especially IMSA now with all the manufacturers. It's like the series to me in the States. It's just the best thing. And Road America, it's like us if we had a ton of money. It feels the same, right? It's that big park. So anyway, Mike started coming up. He bought a house up here in Tomahawk, a summer or cabin, a house. And so he started coming up here a lot. And then last year he brought some of his management team. And we started saying, hey, why don't we do something for you guys? And so we played IMSA commercials here, or IMSA commercials here on our screens. And then he gave us a space down there. And I wasn't sure it was going to work. I'm not sure it worked, considering all of it, all the time it took. But here's what's great about it is, again, why not, if we're the best racetrack in off-road racing, and I think they're the best track, maybe outside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the United States, best road course by far, the way it's run, the way it looks. Why not? And they're both from Wisconsin. Why not have an alliance? Why not get us? Why not? Because we're the best. Or what we do, they're the best at what they do. So I'm never afraid of going there, because we rightfully have a 57-year relation. We've earned that over 57 years here. And he knows it. He loves it, because it's just not like what he does. But the crowd that he's looking at the production. He's looking at everything. Now, this is for what you guys do. This is pretty amazing. And so, yeah. And so this year he's coming up, he's got a suite now. He's bringing 10 of his managers up to kind of enjoy the weekend. And, I wanted to go down there, and he wanted to reciprocate. So the thought of getting the truck on the racetrack for Corey, we were able to work out a schedule Saturday. So he basically went out and took one of, here's the deal. It wasn't for our sponsors. We didn't do that for them. We wanted to take one of Mike's sponsors. That was why. So then he got to take an executive from Motul, which is a big sponsor, an oil company, a big sponsorship with Road America. So we gave her a ride in the Pro 2 truck. Now, it was a parade lap, but didn't matter. Just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And Mike was so appreciative because it was for him. Like that, like that's what we should be doing is trying to make your business better by what we have. And then that was interesting, but then the crowd reaction was also interesting, right? There were
Yeah.
people no idea what the hell we were doing. There were people who, oh, we've heard of Crandon, where is it? And we're 3 hours away. We're right here.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And we had some of our champion racers show up that hadn't seen any of this stuff for years. And we had some, people, I had one couple said, well, we're going to Bark River. Okay. Have you been to Crandon? No, we haven't been to Crandon. It's an hour and a half away. Like, do you know that? And it's this, and this. Oh, maybe we should go. Yeah. I remember sending them, look, here's my name. Here's my card. If you come and don't have a good time, I'll give you your money back. Like you're going to enjoy this, right?
Yes.
And look, a lot of times it's just one customer at a time. Are they going to show up? I don't know. But again, we're trying to make it mainstream motorsport. So showing up at that, it's a little thing. It's a big thing. It's a deserved thing for both sides, right? And they were great to us. We're great to them. We bought some VIP bathrooms from them here recently, because they have older equipment. They cycle through their equipment, and we're the first ones they call. Hey, you guys interested in this piece of equipment, or this or this? And there's working even at that. So they're making us better. It's a great relationship. That's all I can say.
That's awesome.
Hopefully it answers your question.
I think so. Yeah. I think, there's obviously a lot that you described there, not just the learning from each other, making both of you guys' programs better, but also being able to bring in new people that maybe hadn't considered coming to Crandon previously. And I think cross promotions, collaborations, those are obviously one way to get to a new audience. But I've also seen Crandon leaning into another avenue for getting new eyes on the event too. I have seen a lot more social media coming out of the Crandon account, and it is really good stuff, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, social media is really accessible for most people, but I think a lot of racers underutilize it as a tool. I'm curious, from your perspective as a filmmaker, storyteller, journalist, what is it that makes an audience just stop watching a race and start emotionally buying into that?
That's a good question. And it's the social media effort here at Crandon really stems more from the Flannery grandkids, literally, because I used it the way I knew how to use it. Like I'm still old school. I write press releases that, get read quite a bit. They look professional, right? They have to look like, oh, that's Crandon. We can tell that's a Crandon press release. It's written well. There's beautiful photography, custom graphic headers. It looks like a professional press release. And the only tenet I had in it was, well, make sure that what we're putting out is also quality, meaning the best video we can use, the best photography. Don't just put up crap to put crap up for crap's sake. Like and I tend to be on the conservative side of probably not doing enough of it, and didn't do enough of it for sure. Then we brought Bryant Lambert in to take care of that for us too. I mean, he obviously has 7 years worth of footage from here that he shot, and we haven't used it all. I love the video, like the vignette, like the 2 and 3 minute like film stories, like the stuff, the God Made Crandon video, or the home videos we did last year was home. They kind of worked in the television production too. I love that stuff because that's better than anything I've seen the sport do. Is that, like, just have the audacity to say God made Crandon. Well, kind of God did make Crandon. So we claimed that years ago. And it was based on an old radio spot or thing about, I mean, Paul Harvey's way. If you look him up, he was like the voice of radio, and he would tell stories like that. And his one thing was God made a farmer, and it was a whole thing. God needed a man it was a whole lead up. And so we kind of found a voiceover guy who could do it, and kind of created that years ago. And then we refreshed it last year. But I love those. Like, I love those. Now, I'm older, so maybe I can lean into the storytelling a little more with that, right? They're cinematic, they're beautiful, it's like poignant music. If you look back at the ones last year, it's still the American flags and downtown Crandon, all the vibes that we want to put. Yeah, and there's beautiful racing shots too, and all that, but it tells a story. You can tell. So I love that stuff. Now, the other vignettes, the reels, and some of those things, I don't quite understand in terms of, but I know people are seeing them. And we have great numbers in terms of viewership. it's fair. The way the numbering, the counting system works in that, from what I understand, it's fairly, they may not have even seen it, but it shows up on their page and shows up as a statistic, right? The question though, and we asked ourselves that too, is that, okay, that's great, but what did it do? Like yes, Crandon's on social media, but did we sell more tickets? Did we get a bigger audience? What did we do? Did we raise our level of professionalism or whatever it was? I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that yet. But look, there are people out there, as the Blake Wilsons of the world and those guys who've made their life social media, and they're really good at it. And, there's something, that's something to be said for it, because look, even like Polaris this year, which is crazy to me, they have a new machine out now, that one they just announced, the Turbo Boost car, and they're bringing influencers in, I mean, real ones, to Crandon, or to Polaris, to Minnesota, and they're going to take a 2-day drive from there to here. They're coming to Crandon inside by side Polaris. And, clearly out of whatever 5 people there's clearly value there for that. There's clearly value in bringing influencers in here. Red Bull's doing it too. Yokohama's done it before. The Travis Pastranas of the world have done it. So, but in the grand scheme of things, it all matters. But it just, how much does it matter, right? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I think it's a collective, all of it, right? It's what happens before, what happens when people get here. That's also part. What's the experience like for the racer? What's it like for the fan? I mean, we can always do better with that, right? It's a big facility, but we don't have enough. It's hard to get enough security. It's all those things that make it so kind of wild and untamed, as it were. But it's kind of Crandon too. But the social media part has been. I'm glad you noticed that, because it's been a big part of the last year or so. And so we'll see. And we're diving into it pretty hard here in a couple of weeks, just to get us ready for this weekend. So coming up.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting to think about what you've said there is there's kind of 2 aspects to the kinds of stories that you're telling there. You're telling the story that already exists, right? The God made Crandon, and, these cinematic things, the captures that you're getting from the racetrack, from what's already organically happening there, versus the more influencer side is almost these manufactured stories, right? Like, what is the thing that we could do that would tell a brand story, like taking a 2-day trip from Minnesota to Crandon for this event?
It's a great idea. I mean, it's a great idea. We want to do that long ago, flying into Green Bay and taking the trip, which you can making a side by side too. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, there are organic stories that come out of here. Like last year, we had, the Wyatt Miller story. Okay, that's really cool. And then last year, which we'll lean into this year, RJ Anderson's big win last year here at the Red Bull Cup race when Walker Evans passed away. That was a great story. That all comes, right. That we don't plan for that, but there's still a way that we tell it. I lean away from the heavy metal rock and roll, action in your face thing. It's there, and it's obviously broadcast stuff is there. But when you get into like some special story about Crandon, or even getting the best announcer in the business, to me is Ken Stout, and having Ken Stout take over part of the Log Cabin restaurant, which is the only place in breakfast in town here, and having the interview with Wyatt Miller and his mom. They didn't just do it here. We went there, and we got to do it. So there's even that is a way that we like to go about doing this. It's just not standard, just cut dry stuff. It's getting the best voiceover guys or whatever it takes. We're gonna try to get there, like the wire cam, the cable cam. It's all those things. But to me, if I look at the brand book, or I see some of our features that I still love to watch. The 50th anniversary recap is so good that we did with Kid Rock, and it took 50 years to get here. It's so powerful still. That makes me really happy, because we built the reputation here on some of those things. You can't help but watch those things and not get what Indianapolis is the same thing. Their lead up show before the race is better than the race. If you watch what Fox does, their features, and they did it in World Cup too. Fox at the World Cup, all these little vignettes on this soccer player and from this country, and it was amazing. I mean, that's the best of the best. There's thousands of people working on that. So I take that to heart, and I think there's some of that stuff that, again, I know I'm an older generation. I get that. I think some of the younger people could learn from that a little bit more. It's not always about maybe sometimes the storytelling isn't always about the flashiest, coolest thing. Maybe sometimes it's talking about, losing, look in the camera and say, well, I screwed this up today. I lost. Here's why, or, here's what I learned, or, we're not perfect, or, I don't know if I can afford to buy the parts to fix the car now. That's as compelling as if you won, to me, because now you kind of rooting this guy to buy the parts and get back and go racing, right? I think that's part of it. I think that you have to remember, what story am I telling? Does it affect anything? Does it at least move the needle in terms of you personally watching it? Or, Flannery, look at this. What do you think of this? And, wow, they move, sometimes they get moved to tears, right? Well, if you're moving somebody to tears on a video, we were doing our job. And I remember Barbara Rainey, who used to run the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, said, Marty, you're the only guy who can make me cry by watching Cliff Flannery on a grader. And we just had, when we did Cliff's, his Ormhoff video, it was Field of Dreams music behind him. And so that music and that slow-mo of Cliff on the grader made us all kind of tear up. You'd never think it would, but again, we didn't use a rock and roll background. We used Field of Dreams, and just, that soundtrack is, it's pretty powerful. And so you just do stuff like that. And I think everybody can learn from that a little bit, and again, there's the opposite side. There's the Blake Wilkes and the Eisenhower brothers and all the fun stuff that they do. They're really good at some of those things too, right? They're really good at it. And, there's long form stuff now that they're doing in Baja, and, that the Polaris do, and the Menzies do, and the McMillans do. That's all really good, but it's kind of really telling their story behind the scenes of, in 5 minutes, right? But it's expensive to do. It's a lot of work for that 5 minutes to make it good. I mean, that's hard, but they're all doing it. And I think that, I think as producers, we have to take a page from that too, and just say, hey, what are we going to do to maybe be a little more cutting edge? What's kind of the trend on, I don't look at TikTok, but what's the trend? What are the videos that these people are doing? Let's emulate them. The best guys who do that, by the way, no doubt about it, to me, is the group over at Method Wheel. They will take, they do those liveries that look like the Miller Pan, or they'll do up all these tribute things. And I mean, they do it great, and it captures everybody's imagination. So what's happening here is that Boyd James, who runs Method Wheel, is the director of marketing, I should say, and he's one of my oldest friends. He and I started working together years ago. And he said, what can I get for Crandon? He goes, I want to wrap the bus that takes people from the campground to downtown. There's a shuttle. I said, no. I said, no. I said, basically no, because you can do that, but it's actually, they're kind of taking people away from our racetrack. So it's like, I can't endorse that. But here's what I do have. We have an authentic Disney people mover that was built in Anaheim, an old one that was in the parking lot of Disneyland or Disney World, moving people around. So it's you've probably seen it, man. It's the truck and the trailer. So now we're leaning all in on that. So he's going full Disney graphics. We're going to have the operators have like the vest with the white name tags. We're going to go AI with the soundtrack of Mickey Mouse, welcome everybody to Disney. We're going all in. So you go to that, that's cool. That's about as good of a fun activation as you could possibly have. And we're taking all the VIPs in it, from the camp to the parade. They're going to be in the parade. And I mean, but there again, we kind of came up with, I'll admit it was my birthday 3 weeks ago, and Boyd and I were together at the beach. And of course we were drinking. And so it just kind of, well, let's do that. Oh yeah, I remember that. So we're looking up on our phone, like, yeah, that red vest, they had those, and the name tag with the name, the hometown, we can copy those. And so that's where sometimes the creativity comes from too.
Yeah, loose juice always gets the good ideas going.
It's a while, yeah. Yeah. And look, they're like that anyway. He's just one of the most creative people I've ever met. So, they've done a really good job with that. Awesome. But again, they're carving out their part of it, right? That's what they're doing. They're putting in what story we're going to tell, how are we going to tell it. I mean, look, when they built the cardboard trophy truck at last year's SEMA show, if you ever saw it,
that was so cool.
Yeah, Boyd literally went to Arciero, to Ryan Arciero, who's another friend of ours who runs 19 Industries, Herbst, and he basically got to tell him what he wanted to do. He got basically the drawings and a scan of a real trophy truck of theirs, the body and everything, and he went to some builder, and they built that truck out of Method cardboard boxes, and that was a whole display. There was not a product on it. There wasn't a brochure on it. There was nothing except that truck, and that truck got more attention than anything else at the show. And everybody was sitting there going, how did they figure that out? Like, it was so subtle and so not corporate and so not like obvious, that it was really obvious when they did it. So, I'm saying that kind of creativity is hard to find, but they're really good at it. We like to bring some of that here too. That, again, just fun. It's just fun. It doesn't matter. It's just, we call it Crandon Land. I call it Crandon Land for a reason, because I want it to be like Disneyland. Now we'll go full on with the Crandon Land fonts. It looks like Disney. It's kind of Disney for off-road racing. So that was a couple of years ago. I didn't think about the people mover until this year, but it's going to be pretty fun. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
As you're talking about these creative activations from Method, that does not go unnoticed from the spectator side either. I'm thinking about the drone show that they did last year. Was absolutely phenomenal. And I think a lot of racers maybe miss where the value is in that for Method. We see the activations for things like the Ram RHO, where people are literally taking a stock truck off of jumps. And there's a direct correlation, right? You're selling the truck. But what are brands getting when they're doing these things that are so outside of the box?
I think that's what you just said. What can they do that's outside of the box? Meaning, how are they going to get attention? And a lot of it, how do they craft their brand to be something that people want to be part of, or they feel welcome, or that's just kind of cool, right? That's super. Yeah, the drone show last year actually started when they had it set up, that whole alien thing they had set up for King of the Hammers. And then when they saw all the stuff happening at King of the Hammers, we went to all the fights and all the stuff that you could see on social media, which is really unfortunate. They said, we can't be part of this, but we've already paid for it, so let's bring them to Crandon. Which of course everybody loved that, right? But it was an expensive deal, but it worked well. But there again, everybody saw the Method drone show, right? That's what they saw, and what do aliens have to do with selling wheels? It doesn't really matter. They're cool, and Method's just cool the way they've gone to market from a long time. Not just when Boyd was there, but they continuously kind of raise the bar in that. And I think one of the things that racers need to do, they need to just look around, and they need to study this stuff, and they may need to go to Road America and go, wow, because I guarantee you, if I had taken the series guys, some of the racers, and taking them, walk them to the pits, walk them to the paddock, where there's just all the money that's being spent there, and how they go to market, how we're America. You can learn a ton just by paying attention to that stuff. And some of the stuff, look, there's no harm, no foul if you're just essentially just copying them. You're just going to copy whatever they're doing, essentially, right? And just learn. You're taking bits and pieces all the time. There's kind of nothing new under the sun anymore, really. Or you're just taking this piece of the past, or this idea, or watching an Fox lead-in broadcast the Indy 500, say, hey, that the way they shot that, or the music they use, or how they did the voiceover, and I can take that movie. I can take this here, copy this, essentially.
Yeah.
In your own way, but that's how. That's, I think, the one thing that I do all the time. I'm constantly looking around, constantly trying to figure out. That's why I go to I go to Hammers, I go to see my PRI, Sand Sports Show, Off-Road Expo, just A, to be there, but B, just to kind of learn, like, what's the latest trend? What are these guys doing? And, it's very applicable to what we do here. So it's always a learning. You never stop learning, I guess. And there's people who can do certain things better than you can, and some things they can't, but some things you go, wow, that was really good. How do I apply that to this? I think that's where people miss too.
Yeah. Well, I've got an idea for you. So this was something that Amanda and I kind of have as a running joke on the show. But so I have a son who just turned 5. And so last year at Crandon, we had bought the tickets to be in the grandstands, and it worked out for about, I say he sat there for maybe 2 hours, and then he just could not sit still. So thankfully we were able to get some tickets to the skybox, which was perfect, because then there was room for him to actually run around.
Yeah.
So, but what I saw at Wheatland this year for the champ race was, and I don't know if it was a vendor, but someone brought a bouncy house, and they had it right behind the grandstands. And then right next to that was a coffee truck. And I was like, that's perfect, because then the kids can, burn off some energy that they have. The parents can get some caffeine that they need to last for the rest of the day. So do you think that's a crazy idea, or do you think like, hey, we need a bouncy house at Crandon?
I thought about it. I have thought about it. You're right. That's one thing that we're starting to really kind of also understand more is that, the kids have a certain, now they like racing. We have the RC track, which is actually more of a pain than it is, but it's love it, right? But I think it's a great idea. It's just a matter of where. And did they charge for it? Was it free?
No, it was free, and it was just like honestly, to me, it seemed like it was just someone else's, like a family had brought it there, because there really wasn't like a vendor or like anybody specific running it. It was just kind of like a mom and dad. And
it may have been Jamie Devney who runs the track. He's a great guy. Apparently it came from him. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I have to find a place for it. I do understand. Right? That's also a reason why, like now we're seeing some food trucks here, right? That's new for Crandon. That was always kind of controlled, and it took a while to understand. Look, the tastes have changed. The RVs have changed. I joke about it all the time, but Crandon, when I got here, was nothing but converted school buses with stripper poles and surplus army cats. Essentially, that's what it was.
Oh man!
In the campground, I'm talking about. The racers probably had it too, but in the campground. But it's evolved. Like now they're staying. Now people come Wednesday, right? They're coming Wednesday because we're racing Thursday because we had to expand the schedule one day.
Yeah,
and it's working. So now it's practice. It allows us to do so much more. And they're coming Wednesday, and most of them are leaving Monday morning now, because they have these comfortable campers and they just want to be part of all of it. It's great. I love seeing people show up Wednesday afternoon. It's just the best thing, because they're showing up for the weekend. They're coming, right? And, but again, things evolve here. And the same thing, they don't necessarily want to eat, our great fries that we make here or our chicken wings for 4 or 5 days like that. They don't want to drink beer. It was exclusively beer for years here, right? And some hard out. Now they can actually get cocktails here all day, because that's what they wanted.
And those margaritas are good.
Yeah, they're good now. Man, that was a mistake. I remember when I first got here, the board, they understood the margarita machine. They understood, but they were using the worst tequila, just the rot gut tequila. And the problem was, of course, is when people drank them, they didn't answer the bell the next day. Like they were out. Like they're done. Like they're done. And so we've gradually now gotten our alcohol, better. Our Luke is also a Flannery. He's married to Mackenzie Flannery, but he is our food and beverage manager. We make sure that there's good alcohol here. Because some people, not everybody, but some people want that, and so we need to have that. We, for a while, we just treated everybody kind of the same, and try to keep prices low because that's what we do here. But at some level, no, let's bring in alcohol. Yeah, it's going to cost here, but people will pay that. It's certainly not any more than going to a Packers game. It's way less than all that,
way
right?
Less,
But I'm saying is that, we look around the competitive side and say, yeah, okay, but at the racetrack, what are they charging, right? What are they charging down there? And it's just because it's a convenient thing. But now we have food trucks here. They're changing things up a little bit, and we're evolving all that too. It's all part of it. Just like corporate hospitality, we're getting better at building more suites now. Again, potentially we're going to make the barn here, which is the famous, and we have a big deck that's kind of underutilized. Someday the barn will be a museum, and the deck will be broken up into 10 and 20 seat spaces.
Yeah.
So that people can, they can have a VIP experience. Just some, not for everybody. They have their own bar, their own bathroom. That way, they can have a VIP experience that nobody else gets. And there's a handful of people who pay for that. Yes. Not everybody, but some. And so we need to remember that too. There's people out there who come here with these big buses. They want whatever the best that they can get is. So, we're seeing that too, which is nice. But we still work hard to keep prices, as reasonably can for families coming here. And, it's tough. I mean, it's hard to do. And certainly things have got more expensive. And, thank God for our volunteers who come here and help us, flip burgers and make French fries and do all that, because we couldn't live without them. So that's a big part of here too.
Absolutely. All right. Before we set you loose to the world, Marty, we have one question that we ask all of our guests. And that is, if you could give grassroots motorsports athletes one piece of advice based off of what you've learned working in this space, what would that be?
Always remember while you're there, take every race as a gift, right? Nobody's forcing you guys to race. Nobody's twisting your arm. Enjoy every lap, enjoy every pass, and take that in for what it is every time. Every time I got in a race car, it's like I'm at some point in the Baja Peninsula, I'm like, I'm so blessed to be right here, right now, driving this car down this road and it's worth all the effort, right? You got to remember that first and foremost, because it's very difficult. If you take it too seriously, you're not going to have any fun anymore. And you got to have some fun, and you remember, he's got to be, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. So have fun, make it work. And then, really just kind of look around. And if there's something that you see that somebody's being successful at, whether it's how they present their pits or how they do their livery or how their race team looks or how their social media is, emulate that for yourself. I mean, it's not like you have to start from scratch. If you look around, or maybe it may fit your favorite NASCAR guy, or maybe it's a football player. Whatever it is, there's people out there that you kind of want to associate, to be like, or, hey, he does that really well. So find that within yourself and find that I can relate to that. And I could take that, whatever he's doing, and apply it to my program, and, and learn and never stop learning, and, realize that, it's a difficult business, but man, racing is still the most fun thing you can do, to me. It's still the best activity ever. So I still love driving race cars. It's still fun. I mean, it's supposed to be, right? So that's kind of my advice, I think.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Marty, for joining us today. The takeaways
Thank
that
you.
I hope our listeners are going home with, I think, are incredibly valuable. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was already an hour and a half of me talking, so maybe we can edit this out. No, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon, and back here in Labor Day. And I'm looking forward to having fans here. And like I said, I'm pretty accessible most of the time, except during race week. And so if anybody out there wants to reach out, I'm happy to offer whatever advice I can. I mean, it's really, it gets down. There's really no secrets. It's just applying, it's learning, and it's just hard work. It's just hard work.
Yes.
Whatever you're doing, it's just hard work to be successful in anything, but this game especially. So
yeah. And the more we work together, the more we all grow.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, to our listeners, we've got another episode coming out in 2 weeks. We release a new one every other Thursday. We're so glad that you chose to listen through this episode with us today. And we love you. Bye.
Bye.